Hello, people. You're welcome to Minority Report. I am Dozie.
And I'm Walter.
Today, on the episode, we will be talking about something that took over headlines around the world a couple of weeks ago. Right? Um, the Pope Francis, spoke to a survivor of sexual abuse. In the Catholic Church, a Chilean, I think, Juan Carlos Cruz. Yes, Juan Carlos Cruz. And in the course of their conversation, which according to Juan Carlos lasted about 3 hours, the Pope apologized for what he had suffered and, the whole cover up and all of that. And then Juan Carlos is gay. And the Pope also said to him that God loves him, the Pope loves him, and he's all right the way he is and all of that. And opinions are kind of divided on whether or not the Pope's statement has any sort of meaning. And here's what
As they should be. I don't listen. that man and his flip-flop, he flip-flops more than President Trump. It's just
okay. Isn't that unfair? Okay, what makes you cynical about his statements?
Here's the thing. He has said in the beginning, when I think around the time he became Pope,
2015,
he rocked the entire world when he made his famous statement about how he cannot judge. When he was
few months after the Pope Ratzinger said
give him a cookie
homosexuality was a threat to global peace. Let's get that clear. That was a few months before that. The Pope before him, Ratzinger, said homosexuality was a threat to global peace.
Mm-hmm. Let's give him a medal for that. So
we're about to.
So he says that, and everybody's all going agog in their mind, like, oh my God, this Pope is great, it's this, it's that, it's making such progressive moves, saying these things that the Catholic Church does not say. But then his illustrious career as a Pope of opinions is so back and forth. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, today you're affirming sexual homosexuality. Tomorrow you are coming against trans rights. It's this or is that. He came
against trans rights because I have no idea about that.
He has. You should check it up. His relationship with the LGBT community is so back and forth. He's never really on one solid, maintain one. He has. Hold on, I'm coming. Let me get. Teaching transgender young people their identities are valid. That's teaching trans people that their identity is valid is causing a world war against marriage. This is against nature. It is one thing if a person has this tendency and also changes sex. It's another thing to teach this in school to change mentalities. This is what I call ideological colonization. Like, it doesn't even support.
It's one thing if a person come again.
It's one thing if a person has this tendency. If you on your own come to this realization and then decide to change your sex, but it's a different thing.
So the problem he had is not with transfer, but with his this supposed indoctrination he thinks is happening.
It's happening, exactly.
Which is a big difference, if you ask me. He doesn't, from this statement, he doesn't have anything against trans people. He just thinks there's an indoctrination, which is silly, of course, but he thinks there's an indoctrination happening.
Okay, all right. The
14 Pope.
He said, okay, but there's a part where he compares the affirmation of trans identity to nuclear holocaust and mass murder. He says, let's think of nuclear arms, of the possibility to annihilate in a few instances a very high number of human beings. Let's think also of genetic man. Like, the point is, he has a problem with trans identity, the identity of the trans person. So, but I don't understand how you can be so progressive as progressive as to say you can't judge a gay person, or that God loves a gay person the way he is, and not follow through all the way.
Now here's the thing. Here's how I see things. Okay, are you done?
No, okay. I'm not done. So then his flip-flopping is all goes. The point I'm trying to make here is it makes it moot. This whole thing that he's doing, I don't understand what he's doing. Where you are pro LGBT 1 second and then you're anti-LGBT the next week.
He is anti-LGBT.
Yeah. Does he?
I'm asking. No, I'm legit asking.
But see, when you are not, when you're saying things that comes against the trans community, it's part of the LGBT community. If you're not, you
Yeah.
cannot affirm one. And you know what? Okay, like I was having this conversation with someone, and he says he can excuse the Pope. Maybe the Pope doesn't know trans rights well. That even him, he didn't used to know trans rights well. And I was like, okay, but when you didn't know anything about trans people, did you have an opinion about it? He says no. And I was like, yes, that is the thing. I myself, I didn't understand what it fully meant to be trans a few years ago, and I did not have any opinion. I did not weigh in. I waited until I could understand what's even a fraction
Yeah, but still,
of the
I
struggle.
feel like it's instructed that he affirms that. I was about to say at least, but no. Like, I think it's instructed that he affirms their humanity, realizing that this person is human just as much as yourself. That is always the place to start with respect.
Okay.
And the thing about transphobia, homophobia, and all of it is they effectively, you know, strip people of their humanity.
All right. Noted. Okay, so explain to me how after post affirmation of the Juan Carlos guy's sexuality, he then tells the Catholic Church not to accept gay people as priests.
That happened with.
Yes.
Okay. Let me start with. Let me give, like, to start with, it's important to know the church's stance on homosexuality. The Pope's initial his 2015 remark, in my opinion, didn't deviate much from the church's stance on homosexuality, which is God created you and all of that. But like, you being gay or you having same-sex attractions is like this inbuilt temptation system that you have to deal with. I know the church, Catholic Church, and a lot of other church, but Catholic in particular, is very big on self-flagellation and self-mortification and all of that nonsense. So it's like basically the church's stance is, if you're gay, it's like God's cross to you, which you have to carry, which is a lot of bullshit. But here's why I think his statement, his conversation, which, let's be clear, is not the official statement of the Pope. This was a private conversation. He wasn't, speaking to this. Yes, this was reported. A reported
So obviously
conversation.
the private conversation.
Yes,
Right?
it's a private
Even when
conversation.
Vatican, when reporters reached out to the Vatican for
They didn't give
confirmation,
any
they
statements.
said they don't have any opinion on the Pope's private conversations.
Exactly.
So yes.
So
okay.
I don't listen. Why I think this is actually really monumental is, while in the past, in saying yes, you're gay and God loves you and blah blah, blah, he hasn't deviated too much from the church. He hasn't even deviated from the church teaching. With this particular one, like, there is a marked difference.
What? How? In the former time, he said.
Basically, he told this young man, "You are good the way you are." There was no buts, and I think there were only two people in that room, and a very big marker of the sort of conversation it was the reaction and the countenance of the person who was actually the Juan Carlos. If you watch the interview, he was really emotional speaking. That is not the countenance of a person who sensed a bot, who sensed that was being told that there was something wrong about him.
Or maybe it is just someone who is religious and is grasping at anything that the Pope even faintly resembles approval from the Pope.
But
please, I am not naturally.
Can I
I'm not
finish?
normally cynic.
Can I
but
finish?
when it comes to this issue, I think
Can I finish? This is not just nothing. This goes a long way, because here's the thing. Like, it's one thing. The Pope is an office that has juristic personality. But what this thing says now is that the person of, like, Jorge, the person behind the mask, has markedly different politics than he should have as the Pope.
Noted.
And that has big ramifications. Like, you can't tell me. This is basically. Can I land? With Catholics, I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
With Catholics, this is basically the representative of God. Now, when this person, the person of the Pope, Jorge, let me call him by the name his parents gave him, when Jorge has markedly, on this issue, when his stance is markedly different from that of the Pope, when his stance is rooted in humanity, when his stance is rooted in where we are right now as a people, and our evolution as a people and a culture, it's like right now there is it seems like there is a sort of conflict between the position he should have as the Pope and the position he has as a human being. And when you have those dynamics, there are lots of people in the church who are basically on the fence, who are ambivalent, who do not have any opinion about this. There is no way you will tell me that this sort of this statement will not have a monumental effect in making people who have been ambivalent or people who are really belong to, who weren't sure about how they felt to come to, and understand or come to their own opinions of things. Now, people don't care. There are certain people who will double down, but we don't care about them. In the ultimate scheme of things, they make no difference. Yes, you are doubling down on the stance you've always had. No difference. Yeah. But there are a lot of people who would see this, who would hear this, and think twice about stuff. So there's no way anybody can tell me that this is not.
And while I appreciate all that,
yes,
I have a problem. Yes. It feels like when you say one thing for, and then go on to say another thing against, no matter in what capacity it coming at. When you express a level of humanity as your views as a person, can I land?
Can you just say modicum of humanity?
when you express some humanity in your capacity as a human being,
yes,
and then buttress prejudice in your capacity as an office holder, there seems to be a washing away of, because here's the thing. This is what the predominant view, the predominant belief is the prejudice.
Yeah.
The one that counters it, the one that shakes. You now come as in your capacity as a human being, and you say something so glorious, so humane as God loves you the way you are. And then tomorrow, in your capacity as an office holder, you then say, well, the church should not so and so, or trans rights are so and so. When there's a certain weight, the fact that you have said this thing in your position as an office holder, it carries, that beats down what you have said before as a human being. What I'm trying to say is, I don't have any problem. I actually quite appreciate the fact that the Pope is someone who is able to show every now and then that he's a person of his own mind. He has his own mind and all that. But I just wish he didn't have to also tomorrow make counter-productive views that sort of bashes down. Like, if it's something you don't have to say, why say it? If you don't have to say,
bashes down. Like, are there instances, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these things that have been said now in the air. When you make a revolutionary comment, or you make a revolutionary, express a progressive opinion,
yes, it resonates more if it stands there and it just stands there alone.
Has he by any chance countered what he said earlier, or what he said with Juan Carlos?
Right after when he said I don't know in what capacity he said that, but
when was that?
Should not accept. Do you know what that? Somebody said something which I quite agree with. What that implies is that the Pope is advocating for the fact that you're fine the way you are, we love you and all that, but when you come to church, you can't amount to anything other than just being a congregational member.
Like, being a priest is such a grand thing. Like, we should all. I do understand what you're saying.
It is somebody. If whether it's grand or not, there's some people who feel that level of holy spirituality to want to.
Of course, definitely.
They should not be denied that. But then,
here's the thing.
Someone who takes joy in the fact that the Pope said such a thing.
But you know why I have a problem with this right now is it sort of stems from this Pollyanna issue. I think first of all, we are giving the Pope more credit. We are giving his position and power more credit than it actually has. Like, the Catholic Church is not. Let me finish. It's not an autocracy. He's not a military dictator. He cannot halt things overnight. My argument is wanting to, say somehow that what he said to Juan Carlos is, that it will not have any. It doesn't have ramifications, or that is where I discrediting this particular moment in history for what it actually is, which is a step forward. Is where I have a big problem.
It is a huge thing. Like
Good.
I've
So
said that.
if
I've
you
said that.
admit to that,
It is a monumental.
and
thing
to
for
be
him
clear,
say.
I also feel like in many ways, particularly in liberal circles, there is this whole head mentality with bashing Catholic Church. And I have to say that the Catholic Church's stance on homosexuality is a lot more progressive than a lot of Pentecostal churches.
I don't even
Nobody
know
says
enough
that.
about religion to bash.
It-
The point
it-
here's the thing. All I stand against is I feel like there is no points.
Yeah.
The arrival is just like +1 -1. It gets to 0.
Yeah.
It feels to me like there is you don't create something substantial when you say something so pro LGBT and then you say something
say
so
something.
anti-LGBT. It feels like it cancels everything off.
Yeah.
Like if you had
Because
said
you say-
because now so people who I remember when on Twitter when we were having this like argument, it was going back and forth. At that early time, I actually was on the fence. I didn't want to fall onto one side, but then there were people who were like, "Oh, the Pope is he shouldn't have. You people should give him a break. He said something very great." Another people are saying, "But he doesn't have a good track record of
he's
saying
not very
of
consistent
being
with-
consistent and all that." Right then, the news then broke that
Right.
this is what he said to the Catholic Church, to the priest, not to accept gay people. And somebody who was against the Pope in that conversation now pulls in that link and be like, see what I said with a mocking laugh. And it sort of makes it makes it now feel like, so what's the point? Why did you say something now only to now say something else now?
But
I don't care. I don't even care whether he's saying one thing as a human being and saying another thing as an office holder.
Yeah.
The point is we don't know. At the end of the day, even you admitted it in a way when you said that him saying that as a human being, it bears import. Yes, it does. So
course.
it doesn't even matter whether he came out and said it as a human being or he said it in his capacity as a Pope. It still bears import, however way it comes packaged. So you come out.
I feel like conflict is like the conflict between his stance when nobody is watching, when the cameras are not on, because the Pope is a politician when it comes right down to it. Like the conflict between what he said to Juan Carlos and what he has been known to say in his capacity as well. When I say in capacity as well, I mean like in front of the cameras officially.
Yeah.
When you think about that, I feel that conflict is sort of important in this particular time, in the climate that we are in right now, to see that, because it then calls into question, like, what is the church about really?
And that kind of instability is something I don't think the Vatican likes.
Exactly. Which it calls into question the stance of the church, because, okay, you said this earlier, which ties in with the stance of the church, and then you're saying this right now. Okay, so the difference now is there are no cameras. You felt that this was an enclosed space where you could speak freely. So if you yourself feel stifled to represent yourself fully, to represent your politics and what you really think, what does that say about the church? In speaking about this whole, because I haven't heard about it, this gay people are not allowed to be priests. While that is offensive, I'm thinking, because being a priest is a very desexualized position. You know what I mean? So your orientation normally shouldn't even come to bear in any way.
Exactly, and here's another thing that makes it ridiculous that you make that kind of claim. Okay, the Catholic Church usually has a stance where they don't hate the sinner. But
that's nonsense.
It's nonsense. But let us go by that belief that you don't hate the sinner, but you hate the sin. And if we accept you as who you are, we can only accept you if you don't practice homosexuality. Okay, so that means I'm going to stay single and I'm going to stay sexless. Okay, fine. Then why shouldn't I still become a priest? Why do you still have to shut the door on me if I have decided to be sexless and be pure of heart and body and all that?
You know what I keep saying? Religion and hypocrisy. Like this.
What I'm going to concede to these this issue, this development on the Pope side is the fact that in history or in conversations about church, when we're talking about these things, we'll remember that the Pope, the Catholic, as it is now, the Catholic cannot stand firm in his prejudice and say the church is
It's
against
against
this.
it. Yeah.
But then when you say that, then what does that mean? You're attempting to have a different view from the Holy Father? Like, are you that brave? So I feel I would have to appreciate the fact that the Pope is this conflict, like he said, the conflict is an important thing to take note of, and yes, it is something what commending that he actually ever was able to, has not only once but twice now, or is it 3 times, expressed views that are categorically against the Catholic Church beliefs.
But not really though. Like until this Juan's whatever, his stance was not all that different from that.
Well,
of
yeah,
the
but when he
church.
said, "Who can I judge?" That was considered very. Who am I to judge?
Yeah, who am I to
Hey,
judge? Okay, yeah, that was true.
that
Yes,
was a very,
yes, that was a bit.
that was the
Yes.
height of the beginning
That
of the
was-
whole.
yes,
People were
yes,
like giving
yes,
the
yes,
Pope
yes,
side eye,
true.
like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
That you did because the Catholic stance is, we judge, but we judge you with love.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
We still with life and prosperity and really really long life. We'll be watching. We'll still be.
And hope they do better.
The Pope will be saying, "Look," I just feel like I wish that he would somehow transcend from just saying things in private.
I know, right?
Just really.
But this is the start, though. I mean, we can always judge him if he says something that's really really counts as like, dude, you said this a couple of months ago.
Receipts.
So what are you saying right now?
Yeah, I wish he would make it more firm, make it more defined. So that when we are judging from this other side of the fence, we'll know enough to judge with.
Yes.
In the absence of anything else to say about the Pope.
Like we were shading the Pope. I guess that's a Pope roast. Hashtag Pope roast.
I'm Walter.
I'm Dozie.
And this is the Minority Reports.
Bye bye. Okay, that was interesting.